On this week's episode of Let's Talk About It, we are going to explore the 8-part series called The One, which is currently streaming on Netflix. And we're going to ask the question, is there a one in terms of romantic relationships? And if there is or isn't, how do we go about having healthy romantic relationships? And what are some tools we can use to do that? So, you came, you're here. Now let's talk about it.
Well, hello there.
Hey.
This is Malcolm Morgan.
And Micah Morgan.
And you're listening to Let's Talk About It.
We're so glad to be with you again, y'all.
Season
Malcolm,
2, episode 2.
It is season 2, episode 2.
Yes.
Like, that's awesome.
How are you doing, my love?
I'm making it. It's a nice day outside. It's kind of sort of warming up a little bit in this wonderful state that we live in, Ohio.
Mother Nature is playing games with us.
Oh, yeah.
Every day.
How about you?
We're making it. Trying to just make it from day to day. No, I'm doing pretty good. It's a busy weekend. Weather's getting nice, like you said, so I'm excited about opportunities that brings to be outside and hang out with people, safe distances and whatnot. So,
indeed, because we are still, in fact, in a parallelogram.
We are still in the pentatonics right now.
Yeah. So, but I am excited about what we have to talk about today, because this is something that both things that we talk about often. Mm-hmm. And the first is, is there a one, when it comes to relationships? And then secondly, how do we go about having healthy romantic relationships in the first place? And we have a couple tools that we'll talk about that can make that possible.
And just before we get into it, we are not talking about the show explicitly.
No.
This is just, the show was a conversation starter for us.
Right.
And so it will be a conversation starter for this podcast. So we encourage you to watch the show on your own. But we're not doing a full review. We're not going to talk about plot points and all that stuff that we normally do for reviews.
Indeed.
But this is just the appetizer to the full conversation.
Yeah, just a little appetizer. So The One, it is a Netflix special, 8 episodes, and it features a woman named Rebecca Webb, who is a researcher, and she comes up with this tool based on genetics and pheromones that lets you know who the one is for you. Mm-hmm. And so this ends up creating this kind of pretty tense plot line where folks are scrambling to use her tool to find who they are matched with. Mm-hmm. And so as we're watching this show on Netflix, we're looking at each other like, side eye, right? Mm. Like, is there really a one? Mm. So Malcolm, why don't you start us off? What are your thoughts?
I get wow. Is there a one? Short answer, I do not believe. Well, here's what I don't think there's a one in the way that we traditionally have thought of it, and especially in the Western world, where there's one person that you are supposed to be with, and heaven and earth will move to make sure that you are with that person.
Yeah, the stars will align.
Yeah, it's like, I don't necessarily believe that, but I believe that the one is the person that you're committed to above everyone else. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so, this romanticized view of, okay, I'm gonna be with this person, it's gonna be easy. It's just gonna come naturally
because they're the one.
Because they're the one,
right? There won't be any fights, no disagreements.
Yes, everything will be smooth sailing. You'll have 2.5 kids, make $200,000 a year, live in your dream house, and everything will be great. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that.
Yeah. So I wonder if our beautiful audience, our listeners, are sitting there listening and wondering, do Micah and Malcolm agree on this? And if not, are we about to watch an argument unfold where they discover they do not agree on whether there's a one? So I'm sorry to spoil it for y'all, but we've had this conversation a lot,
several times,
and we are in agreement. We both do not think there is a one.
Also, we probably will not have a live argument on the show that we haven't already had before.
No. Well, I mean, there's been a couple episodes where we at least got into like a freshly unpackaged.
But we've talked about
conflict.
We're not. My goal is not to bring something that we haven't talked about.
Exactly.
At least thinly at some level. We will not be out here getting surprised. You thought Hitler was okay?
Oh no. Oh no. It would never be that. There would be a record scratch and this episode would be short. Short end. Anywho, yes, we are in agreement, folks. And honestly, I think it has benefited our relationship that we share this belief, because it's really rooted in this idea that you don't find the one, but you choose the one.
Exactly.
Every day. You choose to be with that person and you say, I am committed to this person. Regardless of how difficult it may be, regardless of ways that we might misunderstand each other, I choose them.
Yeah.
And so, as a brief caveat, these are our opinions, our thoughts, our beliefs. We are not shooting upon you.
Absolutely not.
So if you are someone who believes that there is a one, you're welcome to continue listening. Maybe this is just a chance for you to hear a different perspective. Yes. But we are not saying that believing there's a one is good or bad.
And God bless you on your search. Because I think one of the things that the traditional thinking of the one does is that it puts an immense amount of pressure on people.
It does.
Whether you're actively dating or passively dating. I don't know what passively dating is, but it sounded like the opposite of actively dating. And you're trying to find somebody, then you're trying to find somebody that checks every box. This is what I want. And if you don't have box number 3, you're not getting a second date.
Not getting a second date.
And then it could force you into some bad relationships as well, where a person may check off your boxes, but there's some other boxes that you don't have on your list that you realized, didn't see that coming. So it puts an immense amount of pressure on people to find the perfect relationship.
And I'm sitting here and I'm like, because as y'all know, we are Christians, right? So I can already hear. I can hear folks talking about something. Oh no, the Lord gonna send me my Boaz, and that. Oh no, oh yeah, there have been some fun YouTube videos about that. But that is a whole different conversation.
Absolutely.
And maybe we'll have that conversation.
We might have to bring in some help on that one.
We might have to bring in some help, but again, we're not shooting on people, and we've thought about this. We think that there is support in terms of even our spirituality that confirms this, and so we will begin there with just answering the question. That is what we're branching off from in this episode, that there really isn't a one. You don't find the one, but you choose the one, right? So then as we began kind of talking more about this, we've agreed on there isn't a one. Now we have to figure out, okay, well then how do you go about staying with the person that you've chosen?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, for a lot of folks, it begins with the dating app industry, right? Finding a person that you like, you're attracted to, you got some shared interests.
We have the formula.
Right.
To get you your perfect match.
Oh my.
So come to eHarmony.
To eHarmony.
Or farmersonly.com or whatever website you use.
Right. And they take your money.
Yes. Every month.
And you find the person, right? You've chosen them. And now you have to figure out, okay, we done got past the honeymoon phase. We've been dating for a couple months. How do we stay together? Right. And so I would love to talk about today for our relationship segment, the Enneagram. And, as if you're listening, you may or may not already be familiar. It's a personality tool, and it's spelled ENNEAGRAM as in Mary.
It sounds like an offshoot of Instagram.
It does.
Girl, are you on Enneagram?
And so ideally, the Enneagram is a tool that can help us to better understand ourselves, potentially better understand our partner, and use that information in order to choose each other well, right? Like to really find ways to understand their inner world and understand how to connect well as we continue a romantic relationship.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize, this is not a tool to find people that are the same type as you and congregate together. Right. But it's having self-awareness about yourself, how you show up when you're stressed, how you show up when you're doing well, the things that you may have a tendency to think about or lean toward in different situations. And the same thing for people that you're in a relationship with. Hey, we have a different number, but how does your number show up in this space? And then how can I help to meet you there?
Right.
That's what this tool is for. It's not just to segregate ourselves, ones with ones, twos with twos, threes with threes. It's for us to figure out how to work better together and understand that maybe some of these personality things, some of these things that might rub us the wrong way, they're not just random. They're not always intentional, but sometimes they're things that we just need to be aware of, to be able to navigate.
Exactly. So as you're hearing this, you've heard us say personality type, right? So already you might be thinking of something a bit more or just as familiar called the Myers-Briggs assessment. And so a lot of folks are really familiar with that one. And just briefly, that was created by Catherine Cook Briggs. It's kind of a 4-type indicator where you basically see where you land in terms of introversion and extroversion, sensing versus intuition, thinking versus feeling, judging versus perceiving. You come up with 4 letters and you use that to figure out how you tend to show up in the world. So the reason why I've chosen to talk about the Enneagram today is because I personally think, and Malcolm, bless his heart, he's just heard me rave about this for our whole relationship.
The whole time. Well, it's fairly recent, though.
Maybe the past 5 or 6 years. I think that the Enneagram is a bit more helpful and unique because instead of putting you into like 4 types, what it really talks about is what is your inner motivation? What motivates you when you walk into a room? What's the question that's typically on your mind? And how does that affect the way you relate with others? Yeah. So for the Enneagram, there are 9 types, 1 through 9. And why don't we talk about like what we think our numbers are first? Kind of give folks a teaser there, because we're of course not going to go through all 9 numbers. There just wouldn't be enough time.
We ain't doing all that.
But Malcolm, I know this is more fresh for you than it is for me because I dragged you into it, kicking and screaming. But what do you think your number is so far?
So, just once again to give a caveat, this is not my steez, as someone might say. But I do recognize the value of it, and it's even doing the research I did for this podcast has made me see more about myself than I would like, and the comparisons to some people that I would not like to be compared to. But yeah, my type is 3, which is the achiever, which my wife, I think when I told her it was 3, however many years ago we first talked about it, she was pretty much in agreement with that. So being success driven, but also the basic fear of being worthless, of not having a large value that everybody can recognize and see. So it basically desires to be valuable and worthwhile. So yes, I would like to say that's very accurate for me. So I'll show you guys the scary part is that I read through the examples, and there are some really good examples I was really excited about. And then there were some examples that gave me some pause.
Some pause.
And so, I saw Muhammad Ali on the list,
Nice.
I felt good about that.
That's a good one.
Oprah Winfrey, I was like, okay, I'm feeling this. Michael Jordan, I've even felt pretty good about that. And then I saw O.J. Simpson and Tiger Woods and Lance Armstrong, and I was kind of like, oh Lord. Oh Lord.
Yeah. And I think, what you're reacting to is something that comes up for a lot of 3s, not all, but that there can be this willingness to maybe cut corners for the sake of efficiency in order to achieve success. Yeah. That a lot of 3s will, when 3s are honest, they'll say, yeah, like if something's in my way, if there's a barrier, 3s can be really good at finding a way around that barrier. And so when we hear names like Lance Armstrong and OJ Simpson on this list of threes, then you kind of see where that might have come up. A willingness to kind of cut corners. But threes are ultimate like problem solvers. Like anytime I've been on a team working with threes and then being married to someone who we think is a three, look, there is no problem Malcolm cannot solve. I mean, that's your superpower. And so I think, it could be easy to, with any personality type tool, to look at, okay, what is the flaw of this type? It's really easy for our minds to go there. But I think it's important to celebrate the elements of the three as well,
Yeah, but I think that what separates this is that it shows you how you show up in different areas when you're unhealthy. And I think a lot of other personality tests do focus on the positive aspects of it, which, are good. But this helps you understand why you show up a certain way in certain areas. Like, when I'm stressed, why do I respond this way? Oh, I get that now, because that connects to my need to feel like I have worth. Right. And in this situation, I didn't feel very powerful. I didn't feel like I had value in this situation. And so that makes sense to me. Now I know how to kind of rewire my brain in those moments. Right. And so it's helpful, but it's also it can be very revealing for people to see that on paper. And so I can read it and be like, the first thought is, well, I'm not all the way like that, but sometimes you are like that, and you need to be told that you're like that. Because that's really that awareness is really the only way that you can better show up healthy, even in unhealthy situations.
Right. And I think, talking about relationships, and if you're using this tool for relationships for the person that you've chosen as your one, if you see them showing up in a stressful or unhealthy situation, you can kind of keep in the back of your mind, like, okay, what is their core fear? Because that's one of the things that the Enneagram highlights, is the core fear of each of these numbers. Right. And you can begin to kind of see where your partner, if they are a 3 in this example, is feeling that fear of not being worthy, and how that fear shows up in stressful moments or even in your conflicts that you're sharing with one another. So I think this has been really helpful for us, and it's been helpful for arguably billions of people.
So Micah, tell us about your number.
My number is, I'm pretty confident I am a 1 on the Enneagram.
Number 1.
So, not to, these numbers, I'm glad you said that. These numbers do not come up in a particular order necessarily. So it's not like, oh, the 1 is better than the 5. It's nothing like that. If you're familiar with the Enneagram, the numbers appear on this circle, and actually the 9 is right at the top, not the 1. So there's no particular arrangement of value for these numbers. But the 1 is someone who their core fear tends to be that they are not good. They are afraid of not being a good person. And so what tends to motivate us is finding ways to make the world and us, our inner selves, good. You'll often hear the reformer or the perfectionist as descriptors or labels for the Enneagram 1. And so what motivates us is really perfecting the world, reforming ourselves. And so if we are going on this path of talking about famous Enneagram numbers, I have a list of folks, right? And anybody can go on Google and find this as well. So on my list of famous Enneagram 1s include Martha Stewart, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Michelle Obama, Tina Fey, who she is hilarious, so I'm honored to be on a list with her. Mahatma Gandhi. So you can see already on that list that there's a theme of like morality, right? You've got Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of the justices, may she rest in peace. You've got Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, so that you can already see this fixation on like good and bad, right and wrong. And that's something that Enneagram 1s are typically known for, right? So I think what's interesting is my fear of not being a good person and the way that it shows up in our relationship is pretty potent. Malcolm, bless his heart, has had many sessions of hearing me external process about me reflecting on moments I've shared with another person where I'm kind of like anxious about, okay, did I potentially say something harmful, or, did I misunderstand them, or like, what are they thinking about what I said? So there's this constant fixation on, do people think I'm a good person? And it's something that's on my mind a lot, and it motivates me in pretty much every situation.
Yeah. I think the thing that makes us miss each other is that, threes are highly efficient, and because of that, they can push their emotions to the side and ignore them to focus on whatever the task is at hand. And so there'll be times where I'm just like in a zone or in a mood, and I just am not feeling like being having empathy. I'm not feeling like even touching emotions right now, because I am super focused on this one thing. And so that could be very difficult for Micah, because that's a very triggering feeling for her of not feeling like she's good, or feeling like her morality is being questioned, or the quality of her character is being questioned. And I'm just kind of like, can we deal with this later? Like,
yeah. And I think what's been helpful for me throughout the course of our relationship is understanding that for you, that's not a conscious choice, that you are not seeing me in a very emotionally expressive state and consciously choosing to disengage. Right. Which was helpful. And I think both of us can look back at times where we wish maybe I had access to that information a little sooner. Right. And so I think what we're kind of leaning into, because we've talked about how the Enneagram highlights your core fear, and how it highlights your core motivation, but it also helps you understand where you go in stress or unhealth. So what the Enneagram does is, on this circle, which is again very visual, the 9 numbers are arranged in this circle. It shows you to which number you tend to go when you are stressed. And so for the 1 Enneagram, which is again my number, I tend to go to a 4 in stress. And what happens with that is there's this kind of fixation on not being understood, feeling alone, and having a very present focus on my emotional world. So when I'm stressed, that is kind of that's how you would describe where my thinking is. And so what Malcolm is, kind of bringing up right now is that, I mean, that's quintessential Micah when she's stressed out, right? It's like she's feeling her emotions on the end of her sleeve. She's feeling like no one understands. She's feeling like, I'm alone in this. And Malcolm's sitting there like, yo, I got these 7 things on my to-do list. I would really like to finish those 7 things. And I'm just swimming in my emotions.
Yeah, like for me as a 3, the first thing that gets shut down in a stressful period of time, or if I'm hyper focused, is emotions. Like that's that's going on. If I think of like these space shows when they're like running low on power in space, what do? We'll cut power to this, and just save life support and weapons. That's it.
That's good.
And so in my mind, my body's like, all right, where power's at 90%, shut down emotions, do it. Like, but we can still shut it down. We need all the power we can get.
But no, that I love that metaphor, because 3s tend to go, they do go to a 9 in stress. And when y'all, if y'all do head to Google and kind of Google this, I recommend Enneagram Institute.com. It's a really good website that just gives you all the information that you need. But you'll see that it describes the 9 as this kind of disengaged and apathetic inner experience for the 3 when they go to that 9, right? So there is this kind of like conserving energy motivation that I think. And so I'm really leaning into that, because what I don't like is a lot of folks will describe 9s and 3s that head to 9 in stress as like this lethargic, like intentionally disengaged, and it's not that. It's just nines really value peace.
Yeah.
And they value their inner peace the most. And if there's folks around them, like their wife, who is in a heightened emotional state, that is using all types of emotional energy, a 9 or a 3 who's going to a 9 in stress might be like, I need to conserve what I got all up in here. I'm going to be over here. You know, I still love you. I love you to pieces, but I'm going to be right over here. You let me know when you're done. So yeah, just a really helpful tool. And I love the visual too. Like if you all head online and see the circle, it's really helpful to see kind of the arrows that point to these numbers.
Yeah.
But why don't we end on appreciating where your partner goes in health, right? So we've got this idea that you're choosing the one, you're learning, okay, what is your core fear? What is their core fear? And how do I meet them where they are? How do I understand what their kind of usual motivation is when they enter a space? But I think like one of the best things to appreciate is like, where do they go when they're healthy?
Yeah.
You know, when they got a little food on their stomach, they felt successful in that project at work. They came home smiling. What does that look like? So for the one, when we're feeling healthy, an Enneagram tends to go to a 7. And the 7 is like the adventurer. It's someone who really appreciates spontaneity, humor. And so, I like to think I show up like a 7 sometimes. I mean, it's a pentagram outside right now. So I don't go to my 7 as often as I'd like. But, when I'm there, I really do feel that like, let's do anything. Like I know sometimes where did we go? Did we go to the?
Are you talking about Easter? Probably
Easter. Yeah,
yes. Easter. We got up, did online church for Easter, and then after church was over, Michael was just like, "You want to go to the zoo?" And I was like,
"No."
On Easter? Like, is that an Easter thing? Like, did I miss the memo about Easter at the zoo?
It was random.
I was like,
I respect that.
It's still a panty outside. Like, are we still?
It's still a panty outside.
I was like, I can't get you to go to a restaurant, but we going to the zoo where there's going to be a whole bunch of people.
Well, and I did my research, y'all. I was sitting there scrolling through my phone, looking at, what was the Columbus Zoo doing to make sure folks were safe, right? And it was outside. So I didn't, this wasn't completely unresearched spontaneity. But this is a quintessential. Micah got some food on her stomach. She healthy. She rested. She slipped into her 7 and some wild stuff came out of her mouth. And Malcolm's sitting there in all of the glory of his efficiency. Like, we got stuff to do. It's Easter.
Well, it's just the zoo for Easter.
It was random.
Weird. Like we just watched a sermon about the resurrection, and
I know. I'm sorry.
We had just debated about whether or not 2 days before we're going to watch the 7 Last Words. And we went, going to the zoo. It's like a trap.
I know.
Yeah, but I think I see Micah show up healthily, and sometimes I'll even make the comment like, "You look really happy." Like, you look really like carefree and happy today. She'll look at me and she'll be like, "So I'm not other like not like we're about to have an argument," but she's kind of like
right.
She kind of gets on edge, like, "What do you mean?"
What you mean?
It's like, no, I'm like legitimately enjoying seeing you just smile and happy and laugh and enjoy, and like not being weighed down by something, not some larger, something pondering in your head. So I really observe those moments. I appreciate those moments because I feel like there's like a freedom that comes with it when she's in that healthy one.
Yeah. And again, there's this element of us kind of discovering that within each other. And for me, it feels very, it just feels, I feel seen when you do say that. So Malcolm, I know this is like, again, this is a bit newer for you. Have we talked about where you go in health yet?
We have not, but I was doing some research.
Yeah.
6 tends to be the healthy place. I I tend to be more cooperative and committed to others. And I think that's something that
Yeah.
when I have time and space, when I'm not in a highly stressful deadline based, I really would love to be able to empower people, working with people.
You really do.
At my core, that's what I and also the 3 part of me. That's way more efficient than me doing it.
I was just thinking that. It's the delegation of it. Like, oh, I'm going to empower some folk.
But that is the hardest, as a 3, that's also one of the hardest things to do is to give up things and to give up control.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, good or bad, I feel like I'm the best at doing what I want to get done. But when I'm healthy, I mean, and I think at my core, I want to be able to collaborate and work with people and develop people and see people grow.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really, I mean, I think in anything, like even in our relationship, there'll be times I want to do stuff together. Like when I'm like, oh, let's do this. And you're kind of like, does that involve planning? Not really feeling it.
Oh,
today,
I do not like to plan,
or
y'all.
Tomorrow or ever.
And look, all the 3s I know in my life are expert planners and will often have trouble kind of staying in the present because they are usually in the future. And y'all, that's just not where I live.
She's not. She is not.
But what I love though is that when you do get healthy, as an Enneagram 3, the ways that you seek connection is just really beautiful. Like you tend to want to do the mundane tasks together, not even like let's go conquer the world together necessarily, but like let's watch this show together. Do you want to go on a walk together, or do you need help with this? And so that's something that's very quintessential about the 6 is they tend to be very in tune with their external world. They are the risk analysis, right? That's what they're known for. But what it does is it makes them very good at being able to see what's going on around them, what's going on with the people around them, and how can I minimize risk by being connected with them. Yeah. And so I really do see the ways that you kind of glide into that when you're healthy. So I think, my hope is that us going down this rabbit hole
and live processing,
which I've really enjoyed, is helpful, because what we hope to do is, if you are a person who, regardless whether you believe there is a 1 or not, a 1 for you, that you're finding ways to connect with the person that you are with. Yeah. Even, not even just romantically speaking. Yeah. If you've got a really good friend in your life, what the Enneagram does is it gives you some questions that you can consistently ask about yourself and about your partner that helps you connect with them well and choose them well. So just to like briefly summarize, those questions include what is our core fear? What keeps me up at night? Like what gives me anxiety? What gives them anxiety? What is my core motivation? How do I tend to think and feel when I'm stressed? Yeah. What tends to be on my mind? And then what do I tend to think and feel and desire when I'm healthy? And so these 4 questions really position us to understand the inner world of our partner and our own in order to just have a healthy relationship together.
And you want to reiterate, these tools are not perfect.
They're not, no.
You may read some of the descriptions for some of these things and say, oh, I see a little bit of myself in that, or a little bit of myself in that. But don't take this as gospel. This isn't 100% of how you are all the time.
Because there's only one gospel.
Because there's only one gospel.
Sorry, I had to get churchy real quick.
The church say amen. So in review, we talked about the 1. We talked about, is there a 1?
Is there a 1?
For all of us. And what does that really mean for us as people? We talked a little bit about the Netflix show, The One, which we do suggest that you watch. It's a great conversation starter. Pretty entertaining as well. There may be a season 2, and if there is, it's going to get pretty serious. And then we also talked about a couple tools that can be used to help understand your internal and external world. One being the Enneagram, one being the Myers-Briggs. We focused on the Enneagram.
We did.
Me and Micah kind of talked through our numbers, how we relate to one another with those numbers, the way we show up in stress, the way we show up when we're healthy. And really, the big encouragement from this is that we can use these tools to help better ourselves, and then to better understand the people that we're in a relationship with, whether that be romantic or otherwise. But this is not the end of the conversation.
It is not. It's just the beginning.
We're about to finish talking, but we want you to keep talking about this, and let us know your thoughts about the Enneagram, or maybe some other tool that you have used or are using to better understand your internal and external experience. So you can find me on Twitter at Malcolm DOT Media.
And you can find me at J. Marie Morgan.
And you can also use the hashtag talk about it, POD. We'd love to hear your stories, how this episode has impacted you, or tools that you use to help you understand and relate with people. So I think that's it. I think we're done.
I think we did it. We did a thing.
Thank you guys for listening. We really enjoy having these conversations. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us. This has been Malcolm Morgan.
And Micah Morgan.
And you have listened to Let's Talk About It. We'll see you guys later.